Okay, now we're recording and we're gonna go live in like 10 seconds. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're live now. All right. Okay, so let's see people jumping in here. Okay, hello everyone. Hey, hey guys.
Oh, do I not have
Hello.
the right thing up? I'm not seeing the people. Oh,
Yes.
there we are, participants. Here we go.
Hey,
How do you see
hey.
if there? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Just let us know where you're from so we can see who's here.
Yes, please. Let us know. Say hello to everyone here in the chat section.
Jennifer Cooper, here on time.
Yeah. Yeah, she's. Hey, Kristen. Hey, Fabio. Hey, Matt. She says. Luciana.
Louisiana.
Hey guys. Very
Hello.
cool.
Texas. All right.
Getting quite a few people on here, I see.
Boston.
Boston,
Tennessee.
Minneapolis.
This is the first time that the whole thing's opened up and it's been mostly the United States. I wonder if that's because it's so late and Europe is asleep.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
maybe that can be a thing. Okay, we have to move.
Oh, we got Algeria.
Algeria. All right.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hey, Mohammed. How are you? Okay, let's gonna wait for like 2 minutes for people to jump in here. Just a few reminders. This is gonna be posted afterwards on YouTube, so you can rewatch it and share it with your family, and friends, and your mom.
Tell your mom.
Tell your mom about this. There's still space for people, so if someone else you know she'll be here, please tell him right now or her, and she can join.
Oh,
And one of the other things is that you have the Q&A section there, and please write your questions there, not in the chat, so we can have an idea of what you're asking, please. Someone says your articles are great, Matt. So,
oh, thank you very much. That's actually how I got my start. So I love and I still get into blogging. In fact, actually one of our students in Business Science University, he just posted a blog article on our website this week. Really
awesome.
well done. Yeah, it was on Time Series. So
Oh, nice. I love time
yeah.
series.
Yeah. His article is amazing. I mean,
Oh,
this
good,
guy,
good, good. I'll check that
yeah,
out.
put a lot
Yeah,
of
I
work
mean,
into it.
if you want some people to read that, you can post the link in the chat below, so they can see it.
Sure. Yeah, while we're getting geared up, I'll post the link to the blog.
Yep. Buenos Aires. Hello, Luciano. Hola, Luciano. Uh-huh. All right, guys. So we're gonna start right now, and I'm gonna start by saying hello to everyone and thanks for being here with us. As always, we're very thankful you're spending this time to share ideas and knowledge and your questions. Tonight we have a very special guest. As you can see him, is Matt Dancho. He's a rockstar data scientist. And so I think we can start this off by asking Matt, so Matt, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name's Matt. I'm the founder of a company called Business Science, and what we do is data science education. So what do I do? Well, first and foremost, I'm an instructor. So I teach people how to do data science, mainly based on my experience and the things that I've seen like out there in the real world doing this for many years. And really just kind of trying to show people some best practices and some things that, I've learned that have taken years, and trying to shrink that out down into days or months with the people that I train.
Cool. So I think one of the first questions people can have is that how did you come up with the name Business Science?
That's an easy one. Business plus data science, and then you just take out the data and smash the two together, and you get business science. So yeah, it's really all about the application of data science to the domain, which for me it's typically either finance or like general business. So those are my two areas that I've throughout my career I've gotten into.
So
Awesome.
my big question hearing your intro would be, so you said you've been doing this for many, many years. Sort of what industries were you in? What departments did you follow? Like, who were you supporting? What types of things did you work on?
Sure. So my background's, it's a little bit unique. It started back, I would say, with my first management position. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm actually a mechanical engineer. I got my degree in mechanical engineering from Penn State back in 2006. And I immediately went into and actually started doing mechanical engineering work. But about 5 years into my career, I was hungry for a management role. Ended up getting one. And while I was managing engineers, I eventually got the opportunity to manage a different part of the business, which was more of a sales role. It was technical selling, which is why they chose me as opposed to just somebody with a degree in business. So that was my first kind of how do you say, kind of getting into a different part of the business where I found that the real strength that I could provide and the real value that I could add to the company was in being able to analyze data. I was comfortable with, being able to digest information, being able to use tools like Excel back in the day, and really just be able to kind of like slice and dice data. So as my career kind of progressed, I went from getting kind of thrust into the sales role, not really knowing what to do, to like finding data as kind of the thing, my comfort zone, and the thing that I could really add value. I eventually got my MBA, and I found more and more I was always the guy or the person in the group that was doing the data analysis. So I really started focusing more and more on I don't even know if it was really called data science back when I was like getting pushed into it.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, but so I think it was just more like statistics and just trying to like learn the more advanced tools. I did end up running into an issue. So my background is managing a sales team, managing an engineering team. I eventually kind of went up through the ranks in the business, ended up being a director. And then that's really where, I was able to put like a lot of these skills to use. As I progressed through my evolution or my data science journey, I really found that the existing tools that I was using, things like Excel, things like working with SQL databases, but like some of the traditional tools started breaking for me. So I had to kind of move into some newer tools, and that's really how I got my start into data science, was finding the programming language called R, and I haven't looked back. So I've been using it for about 5 or 7 years or so now, and it's really it was one of the things that, like, you start learning this new language the first week, it's really like difficult and challenging, and you're questioning yourself, should I be doing this or should I just stick with Excel? And by the end of that first week, though, I was just like, I completely did like a 360 and started really getting into it, and ended up, I guess it's called being obsessed. So I started trying to use R for everything. Like if I was like trying to order like a pizza online, I'd be using R, or like trying to like web scrape stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my background. It's really I would say a non-traditional background. I was just kind of working in industry, learning specific parts of the business. And then I would use like the data analysis to do things like sales analysis, or if I was working with like operational data, trying to understand like manufacturing processes better. So it ended up giving me like a wide range of kind of different areas that I became knowledgeable on. And I found that like that knowledge applied with the data science tools really like made me super valuable to the company. And the company benefited a lot from it.
That's awesome.
One question here, Matt. So when you were studying engineering, you did not study like programming languages back then or something like that. So when you started out by studying R and something like that, what was your first take on it? What did you do?
Yeah, so my first so when I first started learning R, I actually started with Python, and I found Python was a little bit too much like coding for me. So I was the guy that came from Excel. I knew like functions like sum and VLOOKUP and those types of things. And for me, Python was initially a little bit too much like object-oriented programming. I felt like I was kind of a fish out of water. I really didn't have, like you said, have that background when I went to school. We had like a basic programming class my freshman year of college, but beyond that, we really didn't do a whole lot of programming. We did some stuff like I would say like Minitab or MATLAB, but it was not a core part of our curriculum. So that's kind of why I got into R. R was more like functional programming. So like coming from Excel to R, it was a lot of very similar styles of functions, like average and mean and standard deviation. So it ended up being very, I would say, more familiar. And it felt less like coding and more like exploring the data, which is what I was most familiar with.
So two things. So my story's similar. I started with R in 2004, and so I've actually made the hop to Python. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that really got me was when you just mentioned Excel, and you're like making that hop. And for me, I felt like in R, I don't know, for some reason, when I was in R, I clung to doing my data cleaning in Excel because I only knew how to build models in R. And then literally just yesterday, somebody asked a small question and I was like, oh, the data set's small, whatever. I've been doing all my data cleaning in Python now for like a year. I hopped into Excel to just do it really quickly. And every time that I wanted to like fix it, like I realized my query was wrong. And so I had to re-pull the data and do everything again. And I was like, oh my God, I don't miss this. I'm never going back into Excel again, even if it's just a quick pull.
Yeah. I think Python or R, we can all agree on the same thing. Excel is horrible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I think this is a good moment to ask. I mean, how can you explain to someone that when they go to Python or R, they will see more value than Excel? Because at a first glance, they're like, okay, but I'm using Excel for like years, and I'm an expert now and whatever. And then why will I learn R? I mean, and what would you say to someone like this?
So usually there's a reason that people switch. And I know for me, and this is not uncommon to like, there's literally thousands of people like me that are running into this situation. So Excel can only hold probably around 50 or 60 megabytes for the file size. So once your data set gets more than we'll say like 1 million rows, it like actually crashes your computer. So this is happening all over, like literally, and it's not even that big of data. I mean, you think 1 million rows, that's nothing. That's a normal data set these days. Yep. So for me, like that was the reason that I had to find something else. It wasn't that I wanted to like, because I was really good with Excel. I mean, I'd been using it as an engineer. I was even doing VBA, like the VBA programming, and creating like amazing dashboards and really, cool looking things. And pivot tables and all that fun stuff. But for me, when you get to a point where the tool just doesn't work for your needs, you got to make a change. And for me, the change was to go to R. R or Python. I mean, they're both way better suited for it. If I knew then what I knew now, it would be a no-brainer to switch. Reproducible research, Kristen, I think that's what you were talking about.
Yes.
Running into that problem where you download data, you do a bunch of stuff to it, and then, oh crap, the query was wrong. I have to update the query. Well, now I have to redo everything I did. There's also other issues, like a really famous one where some researchers from, I can't remember if it was like MIT or Harvard, but they published like all of this incorrect information because they had Excel errors, and because everything's like hidden in a cell, it's just it's very difficult to troubleshoot and to find these things. So there's so many reasons to make the switch. For me, like I did it because of necessity, but like if you're still using Excel to do data science, that's definitely something that you want to consider. There's some better tools out there for sure.
Yeah, just to like really paint the picture of how much better it is, right? Like let's say you're working with like 50 columns of data that you pulled from SQL. And let's say you needed to like one hot encode a bunch of those, and a couple of them you needed to recategorize. If I made a mistake in the database, like Matt said, I would literally have to redo every piece of work that I did if I'm in Excel. If I'm in Python, I make the fix in the database, and then I just go click, 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 and like I'm back to where I was. Like we're talking hours of save time. Mm-hmm. Different world.
I totally agree. So I think right now is a good moment to switch back to business. And I think you mentioned you work for a big company for like 5 years, and then you go to management and all of that. So what was the influence you took from those positions to then creating business science and all these different articles and packages in R about business and business with R?
So as I was learning some of these tools, like I felt the need that I really wanted to help others understand kind of what I was going through at the time. So for me, like what I did was I did the first thing that came to my mind was I wanted to share my experiences with other people. I wanted to create a blog. So that was actually the birth of business science, that, and then also creating my first R package. So I created this blog. Initially, it was just my name, but then I had switched it over to business science because I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about something bigger. And then on top of that, I was developing this R package at the same time, and that is really what kind of kickstarted the business science. I'll say like basically the giving back. So I developed this package. It was called TidyQuant, and it was actually a financial package because when I was going through and doing my hobby is working with stocks and creating portfolios and just kind of personal investing. So I created this R package because I was constantly going back and forth between like two different systems in R. One is called XTS, and then the other one was called the Tidyverse. So I was always going back and forth using some functions from the XTS system, and then and I found just like an easier way was to create an R package that just made the workflow seamless. So I had this blog I was writing, and I was doing these financial articles. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm just going to pretty much stop what I'm doing for the next month and roll these functions into a package. So I put that art package out, and pretty much within a month it went viral. It's been downloaded over, I think, 80,000 times now.
Oh, wow. That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's used by actually most major financial companies that are out there. If they're using R, they're more than likely at least familiar with TidyQuant.
Oh my God, what a huge contribution to the community. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so the giving back and the blog was just so I was blogging on financial stuff. I was blogging on business, because that's my background as well. And I wanted people to understand that, like, there are things that you can do to use data science to really generate real value to a company. So I was just basically the past probably 3 years or so, I've written a number of blog articles. Some of them, they're not all, great, but there's definitely at least a few that seem to resonate with people. I know when we hopped on here earlier, we had somebody that mentioned the blog, and they love reading my articles. That's the type of stuff that I love to do. I've always loved to write articles and try and document what I'm learning, and just new techniques, different ways of viewing problems, and socializing what's out there. I also like experimenting. I'm a big fan of trying to find out, like, the latest tools and techniques and what's new and hot. So that's what I like to do. That's how it came to be.
Cool. So what do you think is different between doing data science and data science for business? What's the difference there? And what are you trying to do to make that difference, like, important for people in your company right now?
Sure. So the big difference between just like being a data scientist and being a data scientist in a business is the domain experience. So, like, what most data scientists, I would say, struggle with is they've got all these, like, really good and useful tools that can be applied. But I think where we're all struggling right now is being able to connect that with the business and being able to bridge that gap. It's very difficult to do, because oftentimes, at least what I'm seeing, it takes longer to learn the business than it does to learn the data science. The data science, realistically, like, if you take a bunch of crash courses, and if you really focus yourself, probably in 6 months to a year, you can be pretty good. But generally speaking, for a business, it takes a lot longer to learn that domain experience and to learn all the different areas of the business. You've got, like, marketing, you've got sales, you've got finance, operations. Yeah. So you're talking, like, it took me years to learn all of that stuff. And I never even touched some of the different, like, I didn't work a whole lot with our finance group. So learning their stuff, that's still stuff that I don't even know, all of what, like, certain parts of the organization do. But I think that's the big thing. Like, when you're talking data science for business, you're talking really understanding business problems, how to meet with stakeholders, how to convince people that this is, a machine learning model that I've just built that can save our company a lot of money. How do you convince them that it's ready to go into production, and you should trust in this, app that I just built that's going to help, you make better decisions rather than going off of intuition. It's difficult. So, you've got a lot of dynamics, and in a business is run by people, and people are the toughest to convince, because, a lot of people are, they're skeptical, and they hear AI, they know they need to get into, data science and machine learning, but they don't understand that math and statistics is what it's based on. And really just trying to show them, this is the right way to go. That's what takes you from a data scientist to a business data scientist or a data scientist in a business.
Yeah. There has been mentions here to your cheat sheet. I think that was one of your amazing contributions to the field. And I think that cheat sheet is tied together to the business science problem framework. I think you can talk about that, like how that came to be and how that can help people to actually engage more with the business and not spending time doing whatever they think is good and then try to convince the business.
Right. So when I was learning how to do, even after working like many years in a business, and doing data science for that company, what I will tell you is I learned more the year that I spent consulting with companies. I learned way more than I ever did in my job, because I just started out. I figured, hey, as a consultant, so I was starting to get people coming to me because I had released a Tidy Quant package and they wanted a little bit of our programming done. And that was fine. But initially, Business Science started out as a consulting company. So as I was getting those requests, I'd started to get bigger and bigger requests. And eventually, I was getting companies like Fortune 500 companies that were coming to me. And I ended up actually having like a project that just went amazingly bad for a number of reasons. And that was really, I realized that I needed to come up with a better way, a better solution. So what ended up happening with this project that I took on, and I don't ever recommend this, but so a company came to me. They had this big meeting. It was an HR group, and they were looking to analyze some HR data. So they wanted to be able to show that they were getting into predictive analytics. They wanted to present something at this upcoming meeting. It was a board meeting to a bunch of executives, and they wanted to be able to prove to them that they were getting into analytics, predictive analytics. So I decided to take on this project, and what they wanted us to do, they just gave us some data and said, hey, come up with some predictive stuff. This is kind of a general idea of what this meeting's about. And, oh, by the way, we're going to give you this data set on Thursday. We need a report back on, Monday.
That happens very often, by the way.
Yeah. So this is the type of scenario that is just it's a lose-lose situation. I didn't have time to even think. I just dove right into the data. I actually hired an HR specialist to help me out because I knew the tools, but I wasn't the domain expert in the HR area. So he was helping me out, and we worked just kind of nonstop through the weekend to crunch the data, put together a nice report, did all of this fancy analysis, met with them on Monday, presented our results, presented our findings. And at the end of the meeting, there was silence, which is never a good thing, by the way. So the director that we were working with, come to find out that she wasn't too happy. My point of contact, which was beneath her, she informed me, towards later in the week that they didn't end up using our information. And the sad part is it was actually a really good analysis because it identified a bunch of people that we saw in their data that met the criteria for executive potential that our machine learning algorithm had pretty much mined their data and found. And these people weren't currently being flagged for executive potential. So we thought it was a really good analysis, and whether or not they ended up using it, I'm not sure. But the fact of the matter is that we didn't understand what they wanted clearly enough. We didn't take the time to really meet with them throughout the process, engage the stakeholders. We just kind of did what we.
Well, the process was like 5 days.
I know. So I was super upset after this thing. I really for the next week I just kind of stopped what I was doing, and I just thought about it, and I thought about it, and I was like, all right, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be some, there's got to be some sort of thing that caused this to go wrong. And what I eventually, the epiphany is that I didn't have a process. I didn't have a clear, step by step, like, hey, this is what we need to do with these clients to make sure that they've got a roadmap for success. So that was where the business science problem framework was born, and that's what we teach in our university. And what we found, actually, it's not even I haven't found this. The people that are taking our course, they're finding it, is that it's actually cutting their project times down by half, and it's really just streamlining everything that they're doing. And it's because there's now a step-by-step process. They can show it to their management when they walk them through what steps are in the process. They get to see, hey, oh, this is why it takes 2 months to do a data science project. This is why I can't have it in 5 days plus, and 2 of those days are on weekends. So yeah, it's definitely, that cheat sheet's very, very helpful. So those that are using it are getting a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, I just posted the link to the business science problem framework for people to see it. And so what you're saying here is that when you're doing the course, people are learning to do designs for business by using this framework, right?
Yeah, so the course is through Business Science University, which is our online learning platform. The 201 course that teaches R and H2O, that's a 10-week course that starts people off. It's an end-to-end data science project where they take, it actually ends up being an HR problem. It's people are leaving the company. It's called employee attrition. And we teach them how to solve that with data science. And the entire kind of course walks them through step by step how to use that business science problem framework, starting from business understanding, like understanding exactly what that problem means to the company and in terms of financial value. Then they size the problem. They have to figure out, whether or not it's even worth their time to be, the data science team's time to be spending on it.
Amen.
If it's a $50,000 problem, I hate to say it, it's not worth your time.
Yep.
Because you're not going to get a return on your investment, or the company's not going to get that. So it's a lot of the mistakes that people end up making because they haven't done this before. But when you're in a consulting position where every minute counts, like that you're on a project, that's time that you're spending where you could be doing another project, or you could be, helping another client out. So you really need to compress that schedule. You really need to streamline the process. You need to get results as efficiently as possible. And that's what this framework does. So it was really good for me. But it hasn't just been good for me. It's been good for other people who've taken my course. I know one consultant that has taken it has, basically given a glowing testimonial saying that it's cut his time to produce or to deliver a project in half. So it's getting results.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So, and one thing here, I think there are some questions related to this, but I think it's important to mention right now. How hard was for you when you turned into data science? Because you mentioned that you were doing like engineering and stuff, and what's the comparison right now? Now that you have experience, you have been working in consultants, now you have a framework to work. I mean, what will have changed, or what have you learned from these years? So
the data science, I will say this: the tools have gotten a lot different. It started just statistics. Like 5 years ago, I was just doing linear regressions. I was not doing XGBoost. I was not doing Keras. I was not doing, any of the high performance algorithms.
Amen.
So initially, I
I've
mean,
just got a lot of amens tonight.
yeah, I mean, that's how it was. That's, you were
Yeah.
doing a linear regression. That's the tool of, that's your bag of tricks right there. I will say this, the tools initially, it felt like there was an overwhelming amount of information to learn as I was getting more into data science. But then what I've also seen is as I've grown in the field and just got a lot of reps doing projects, that's really allowed me to like learn a lot of these different algorithms, kind of understand strengths and weaknesses, and really just develop myself into a well-rounded data scientist. It doesn't happen overnight. I really do feel that there's two pieces. There's education, and then there's also experience in doing projects. So you have to have both. The education shows you the tools, but you have to apply them. And if you don't apply them immediately, then you're not going to end up learning them. So it's just been kind of an evolutionary process, and I'm a constant learner. Even though that I teach now, I'm still learning every day. And I think probably most data scientists out there will say the same thing. I mean, you got to stay hungry.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
So Socrates just asked this in the chat, and I want to give you an opportunity to answer it. So he said, "How do you take a machine learning model developed in R to production?"
So everyone is kind of like caught up on production. Like what is production? A lot of people don't even understand what production is. So for me, production is that last mile. So if you think about it, you're starting here with a business problem, and then you want to get to here, which is business value. So the way that you get to business value is you have to take something into production, and that has to change the way people interact and make decisions. So that last mile is really taking something to production. But if you think about it, collecting data, cleaning data, coming up with a model, hypothesizing what the problem, do I have the right data to even assess this problem and hopefully extract some value from it? Then modeling, and then doing all this stuff. Oh, you get to modeling, the results aren't panning out. Going back to data collection, so you've got a lot of steps in here, and the full process pretty much is 99% of what you're going to be working on. And then that last piece, that last little itty bitty piece is what we call production, which is where you develop like an application, and then you can turn that into something that's scalable that you can put out there into the hands of people to make decisions. You can do that with R. You can do that with Python. I will say this: probably Python's a little bit better for that last mile, but my feeling is R is better for 95% of like that first part.
Yeah. I think we all miss the tidyverse when we go to Python.
Yeah. The tidyverse, the fact that I can just iterate through my data and come up with it's fast, it's efficient. I'm an efficient person, so I'm from a consulting background. I want to get from here to that last mile as quickly as possible. R enables me to do that. What I have now is I actually have a team that I work with. And if we do take something into production, it's either going to be a shiny web app, which is R based, or it's going to be probably a Python app built with Django, which we just actually made one. And that's the other way. So, it just depends. It's just whatever flavor you want to go with. To take the actual machine learning model to production, you can do it through, there's a thing called Plumber in R, which is for building APIs, or you can do it in Python as well. Yep. And I think as these languages are growing too, we're seeing a lot more where they're interoperable. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see more people doing like certain pieces in R, certain pieces in Python, and it just depends on what they're comfortable with.
All right.
Amen.
So we have a lot of questions from people here. So maybe we should start by answering some of them. Harry has a question. He asks, do you find that a lot of data science related database is towards Hadoop, or is that only for unstructured data? Basically, can you do data science using only MS SQL or other SQL variants?
So data that's being stored by companies, I mean, a lot of it's primarily like people are getting more business value out of structured data right now than they are unstructured. So let's just kind of divide it into two topics. So there's a lot more unstructured, which is like text that's out there. And then but people are getting business value out of their structured data, which will be like for most businesses, it's a SQL database that stores, like, it's a relational database that has like orders, customers, products. It may have, just different things that they're doing with data. It'll all be stored in a structured fashion. So that is primarily where data scientists are going to be most effective immediately. The unstructured stuff. So I'm working with some financial companies right now. They are all over unstructured data, but that's because it helps them do certain things that are special for their particular lines of business, which tend to be either predicting stock prices or trying to really utilize like financial data to understand like organizational risk, those types of things. Like they're actually trying to and they have to pour through a lot of like financial statements in order to be able to get that information. Turns out that natural language processing is a very good way to handle that type of data.
Totally.
Right. And those financial companies have also set themselves up, right? Like, I think one of the issues too is that a lot of companies just haven't been focusing on data-driven decisions. And so, we talk a lot about unstructured data, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of companies that still need to optimize their ad budgets. They need to understand retention. They need to understand all these things. And there's all these modeling opportunities where, like, yes, getting to that unstructured data is going to be great, but there's like some like buckets with big holes in them that like those fires need to be put out.
Yeah. And a lot of this stuff too, most companies that are really getting into like trying to get their data organized, they have data engineers that are working in some of these technologies like Hadoop and whatever the other there's like, it seems like there's like 20 different types of data warehousing
and a
solutions.
New one each month. Yeah.
And changing to whatever, it'll be different next month. So yeah, I wouldn't get caught up too much on they're structured and unstructured. Most companies have ways to handle structured data. That's probably where you want to spend most of your time, unless there's like some specific reasons to do the unstructured stuff.
That was a really good point you made too, because like I sometimes hop into Hadoop to get stuff, but if we are going to need a variable going forward because we have something up there that's useful, that goes to a different team and they engineer that to make it available for us as structured data. Like we work that out and get it into the database.
Yeah. So the ingredients of a high performance data science team, there's data engineers, there's data scientists, and then there's usually like an applications or like somebody who's good at building web apps, basically. And when you have all of those ingredients together, where you can very quickly and talk to the data engineering group, and they can start to get the data in roughly the right structure, so you can pull it and start to do your analyses on it. As a data scientist, you don't want to be spending a whole lot of time in that data engineering space, because that's just not your core area of expertise. You play here. And then you want to be able to bridge the gap and do the web apps as well, which I think Shiny is great for, but I think that's more for like kind of mock-ups or just rapid prototyping. Once you want to get into like a client-facing app, like say you have something that you want to put on a website for customers to like log into and do stuff with, and then maybe they have to have an account. That to me is a different area of expertise. That's not you. That's a web developer. So you need to have like all of these different ingredients for your team to do the full
pipeline.
Yeah, the full pipeline.
Good. So one question here from Jennifer. Why inspired you to start Business Science University?
So the Business Science University, last year was like my consulting experience, and that's when I actually ended my consulting. I was finding that I was getting a little bit burnout doing the consulting because I was actually enjoying more working with the data science team, educating them on the skill sets that I was able to teach them. And the thing that was discouraging was that I was always working just one-on-one with a company. And, while that's good, that benefits the company, I just felt that there was a lot more benefit that I could give beyond just working one-on-one with a company. I wanted to be able to, it's the same thing I do with the blog. Like I want to be able to give more information. And I felt like at this point in my life and my career, I'm really at the point where I know enough to be able to give back in a more formalized fashion. So in November, I got together with a group of people, a group of friends, and I decided to start developing Business Science Universities. This was November, about 12 months ago. In April, we launched our first course, or I launched my first course as an instructor, the 201 course, which teaches R and H2O. And the feedback that I've been receiving personally through the forum comments and also the Slack channel has just been tremendous. And it's really inspired me to continue pushing and to continue into some of the other areas that I'm particularly interested in, which is like time series and then text. So that's going to be what's coming with Business Science University in 2019. We've got a big roadmap. Fabio is also helping me out with some stuff with Python. So he's, I'm sure, got some things he can say to that effect. But it's really been, I don't know. And
it's awesome.
It's been great because I'm impacting way more people too. So it's very cool.
I think one question here that will be good for a lot of people right now is that, what would you recommend for people to start, R or Python? And then he says, I know you guys are working on a Python path for your instruction, but what do you see as the best starting out?
Sure. That's a great question. And I think that's one of the things that people need to get right off of the bat, because if you make the wrong choice, you're just going to end up spinning your wheels, or you're going to get discouraged. And that's the worst part, is you don't want to quit because you picked the wrong language for your particular skill set. So the way I divide it is, if you use Excel right now and you're a business person or you're business intelligence or something like that, you should probably learn R, because I think it's going to be more in line with what you already know. It's going to be very like Excel. You use the sum function. Excel is basically functional programming. You just don't see it as a programming language. So is R. R is a functional programming language. You're basically just taking the data, piping it into a function, piping it into another function, and then out comes your data. What I would say for Python is, if you're interested in computers, like software engineering, computer science, those types of if that's your background, you're going to feel more at home in Python, because it's an object-oriented programming language. You're going to be more used to, if you've done Java programming before, or if you've done, even web programming, like you're going to probably feel more at home with Python. And it interfaces really well with all of those technologies.
Yeah, and someone just asked on that point, what are the plans for next year for Business Science University?
So we do have a big next year. Time series is the next big piece that's on that's as soon as Fabio and I are done doing data science for business and getting the basic track done, which is the 101, kind of like, I don't even want to call it a crash course, but we're getting ready to release a course that's designed for beginners to get them really advanced quickly. And then we have the 201 course, which I've already released mine. So now that that's done, we're going to switch gears. We're going to work on time series, and we have a couple of different time series levels that we want to teach. So
Awesome. So it's a lot of questions here. I'm trying to pick one here. Blah blah blah. Okay, so this one is, which domain knowledge is more relevant?
which domain knowledge is more relevant?
Yeah, I think he meant like, what should you, I mean, if you want to be a data scientist for business, which domain knowledge should you be like looking forward to learn?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it all depends. I mean, for me, there's a couple of different ways. Like I kind of got thrust into certain areas, so it wasn't really my choice. I had to learn sales. I had to learn marketing. So if that is your situation, the decision is already made. Just learn whatever you're thrust into.
Yeah.
If it's not if you're say just graduating and getting into a company, or if you're already in a company but thinking about making this transition into data science, think about what you like to do. Like if you enjoy, working with customers and marketing data, or if you like, if you're already, maybe you're sophisticated with Google Analytics, like that is really area that you can make a huge splash, a big impact. And I would say learn everything there is to know about that specific area. So learn things like customer churn, or learn things about like working with time series and understanding when anomalies are happening that you should investigate. It all depends on what you're interested in. So I would start there and try and combine data science with an interest, and that'll make you really, really valuable to that organization.
Awesome. So do you offer a course on how to put a model into production?
We are going to eventually have that, but right now that's kind of like the 300 series, which is going to be after the 201. Right now, so we are constantly polling our current students for like, what do they want next? What do they need next? So they really kind of drive the ship. So I give them suggestions based on what, we're proficient in, but time series is the next one. We will eventually have the web app course. We ran into some snags with the Shiny course, but the goal is to eventually have, how do you develop a web app, and then also how do you take that web app into production.
Okay. So this is an interesting one. What's your advice for undergraduate students who will be applying for jobs in the coming year? What are the potential ways for students to prove they can be a valuable employee for companies if they have a little working experience?
Okay, so this is something that so many students are facing right now. Companies are unwilling to take a risk, because if it's no longer just fine to have a resume and send it in online. Companies aren't hiring that way anymore. So that's the fact. There's a couple of ways that you can do it, and I think you need to do all of these things. So number one, I would develop a blog. I would start putting information out there online as you're learning things that showcase your skills and ability. Eventually, there's been people like David Robinson. He put a blog post out there. He got hired by Stack Overflow. He's now the director of data science at Data Camp, and his career was kicked off because of a nice blog article he wrote on analyzing baseball statistics, I think. So that's number one. Create a blog article, show people your experience. Don't be afraid to put that stuff out there. That's how you're going to get noticed. Number two, I would say try and find opportunities to network with people that are already in those companies that you want to get into. So, for example, there's nothing better to a company than reducing that risk of hiring somebody new. How do they reduce that risk? Well, if somebody's already a current employee of their company and they're doing a good job and they refer you, you're going to automatically have that reputation. Oh, that person's good. You're probably good. So do that. I mean, if you have a connection in a company, then you got to use that. That should probably actually be number one before create a blog. If you don't have that connection, and don't worry if you don't, because there's a lot of people when you're starting out that don't have that connection, you have to gain experience. So whether you do that through the Kaggle competitions, or to me, I think it's even better to just find, do untraditional data science. Scrape web pages on, if you're into music, scrape Spotify or something like that. Do those types of analyses. Don't do just what everyone else is doing, which is like a Kaggle competition where the data is already pre-processed for you. Like, show that you can do the full end-to-end data science, and that's how you'll really catch people's interest, is if you're doing stuff like that. So there's a couple suggestions.
So Harry asked here, how does business science courses work? Are all classes one online or any physical classroom? Is the format recorded video and quizzes? How does it work?
So how it works is everything's pre-recorded video, and you actually go from they're all designed around one project. So you will have, for example, in the 201 course, you have this HR problem where you've got a data set. The employees are leaving the company. We need to understand why. We need to understand how much it's costing the company, and so on. They're self-paced, so you can take them, as quickly as you want. It's suggested 10 weeks, because if you go too fast, you're not going to absorb it all. And if you take much longer than 10 weeks, then you're at risk of potentially quitting, and that's never a good thing. So you want to just kind of go through it. In terms of the structure, there's challenges. There's and actually in the new course that I'm creating, there's actual projects, like side projects that you're going to have to do. And there are quizzes as well to just check your knowledge and make sure that you're locking in the things that we want you to absorb. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And I think the most valuable thing, honestly, is that you're actually doing a real data science project.
Awesome. So maybe one final question before ending it up is, do you have any suggestions regarding internship after completing the 201 course, like a list of companies, something like that?
So, all right. Well, the 201 course, that's going to get you the experience. You still have to apply it. You have to, in terms of getting an internship, the way you're going to catch their eye is if you do actually do your own type of project, which is different than what everyone else is doing, which is kind of like the, Spotify, or if you're into, I don't know, baseball statistics, analyze baseball data. You really need to catch their eye, and you need to somehow get your name out there.
So you can take what you learn in the course and then change the problem in data sets.
Yeah. Well, you can do that as well. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that you need to differentiate yourself. So you're competing with every one of your peers that are out there who all have very similar knowledge to you. How do you change the game? Well, in my opinion, you need to do something to differentiate yourself. You need to really showcase your abilities in a unique way. And that is the true way that like how are you going to do that? You're going to go above and beyond them. You're going to learn different tools than they're learning. You're going to, you're going to study like a real world problem versus just a Kaggle data set. Like, to me, the toughest part is probably finding the problem, but it's actually the easiest part too, because every one of us has an interest that is beyond data science. You know, Fabio, I know you used to be a drummer, right? So you got some music experience.
Yeah.
You know, me, I love finance. I mean, that was my hobby. I was doing investments all the time. I got my butt kicked in the financial recession. I figured I needed to do, up my game. And I used data science now to up my game. So
I got my butt kicked in 2008 too.
Everyone did. So
so bad.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's how you do it. I mean, just find an interest area that really resonates with you.
All right. So one final thing you want to say to people right now, Matt?
I really appreciate being on here. I'll say to you guys, Fabio and Kristen, thanks for having me. To everyone that's listening, honestly, just never stop learning. There's a ton of stuff. I know it can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but really the true power is going to be that once you gain these skills that are going to set you apart from your peers and enable you to unlock value for companies, these companies that we all want to get jobs with, that we all want to be valuable assets and members of, they are looking for people who don't just know data science. They also they want people that know the business. And that doesn't mean you need to be an expert, but you need to know how to ask the right questions and communicate with stakeholders and other people in that organization to get the right information to help you solve problems. So
awesome. So how can people follow you and be updated with what you're doing and all of this?
Yeah, I'd say the best way is LinkedIn. Just, connect with me. Just search Matt Dancho on LinkedIn. And also the Business Science website. Subscribe to, I do 5 Topic Friday, which is a fun way to, it's a nice end to the week where I give 5 just different resources. I'll be doing the next one tomorrow. You can sign up for that. It's just an email newsletter, and it'll give you five tidbits of nuggets of goodness for the end of the week.
Nuggets of goodness. I love it.
Yep.
Awesome.
All related to data science.
Not random nuggets.
Not random nuggets.
Random nuggets.
All right. So thank you very much, Matt, for being here, and thank all of the people for being here. And if you want to see this later, remember to go to datascience.live.com, and you will see the YouTube video afterwards, and you can share it with whatever you want. And we'll see you very soon with the next topic. All right.
All right.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Love
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.